So do you ever wonder how these established artists that have a distinct style, how do they create such a unique technique? Are they copying from other artists? Are they just so creative and so original that they're creating this method that no one has ever thought of? We're gonna cover that and talk about it in depth in this video. Let's get started. Hi creatives, it's Lauren Elizabeth here with Lauren Elizabeth Animal Art. I hope you are having a wonderful, almost spring. I've got my flower shirts out. I am ready for spring. I am ready. But what I do is I help beginner and intermediate level artists reduce stress while mastering animal art. And I'm doing a teaching painting series here called Leap Beyond Technique, where I help creatives connect the dots in their animal art, connecting their story, the good and the ugly, with the right color palette, the right technique, which is what we'll talk about today, and the right mindset that helps them create authentic, meaningful, original art that eventually surfaces an artist's style. A lot of people think that to find your technique, you have to learn 100, 200 different techniques. I work with acrylic paint, so I'm kind of referring to acrylic animal art in this video, but this kind of can pertain to all different types of mediums like watercolor or color pencil or oil paint. And that's just not the case. You just need to know the basics, whatever medium you're working with, and then you use and alter those fundamental techniques. So that's where you begin. I'm always encouraging artists to learn technique first, learn the basics, learn acrylic paint properties, learn the feel of acrylic paint and how it feels when you apply paint to your canvas, how it feels to apply a little amount of paint to your brush or a ton of paint to your brush, how acrylic paint dries, the environment you're working in and how that affects it, the paint you're working with, whether or not you like the colors when they're on a black canvas or a white canvas. These all play into your technique. Going back to acrylic paint, let's talk about some basic techniques. Okay, so there's layering, there's blending, there's creating a glaze, creating a wash, there's the drip technique, there's dabbing, there's wet into wet, and the dry brush technique. These are all examples of the basics. Now here's my little secret as to finding that technique without focusing so heavily on your method of painting. And that's to tell a story, to tell your story with your art. Focus on that using the fundamental techniques, and that technique will come. That leads me to those action steps, which I'm going to jump into really early in this video, and I've been adding them to every video in this series, which I have linked down below in case you missed any of these videos in this series, Leap Beyond Technique. Using those basic techniques, how can you express what is happening in your life right now? When you're telling your story, you want to capture your current experience. Are you experiencing grief? Are you experiencing just great joy? Maybe you just had a baby, or maybe you just had a baby and you're experiencing overwhelm, or maybe you're just kind of right in the middle. So I'll share my experience, the story that I painted in a recent painting I made of a lion and a hummingbird. This is actually a painting idea that I had a long time ago, but it really came to life in my present season that I'm in, which is just a lot of hardship at home. My husband is still going through a lot of health issues. It just seems endless. Even though we thought we were over that hurdle, we're kind of back in it. And then, of course, he's not able to be there and be present with me and the kids as much. And so I felt overwhelmed. I've also felt sometimes alone. I felt frustration. exhaustion, and weak, just truly a fragile little hummingbird. And a lot of my own strength comes from the Lord. Anytime I feel weak, I just look up. Anytime I feel fragile or confused or overwhelmed, I look up. And I always kind of connect the strength of a lion and the bravery and the fierceness and the power to God. I connect that with the animal of a lion or a tiger. And then I always think of a hummingbird being something that's so delicate and not very strong compared to a lion. Roses play a huge role in my faith as well. And so I connected the roses to this hummingbird from the lion's mane. The Lord kind of working his power and his love and his beauty through me in the situation I'm in, but some days feeling just angry and frustrated. And so I use the dark colors to help me express that. But at the same time, that light, that beauty, that light, that glow that I feel at the same time is the hope that I feel through the struggle. In my life, I've always just seen God work in such an amazing way, and a way that I never even thought was possible. And so I use color. My efforts to tell this story, I have created my own technique. I focus a lot on separating the dark, the medium, and the light values. Like I try to find my colors by pinpointing whether it's one of those three. The next thing is you want a technique that allows you to achieve your level of excellence, okay? And that's gonna look different for everyone. We're not aiming for perfection. We'll never get there, but we can aim for just a little bit better than the last painting. And then lastly, we wanna enjoy this process. We wanna actually love and have ongoing passion creating this style of art. Okay, so a little backstory. I didn't start with acrylics. I actually started with colored pencil art. I was practicing drawing, and then I would color it in with Prisma colored color pencils. I loved making dog portraits that way, but it took me what felt like years. It took me way too long. So then I went to oil paint. Yeah, like I thought that would be faster. I knew it would take long for oil paint to dry, but I loved the color and I loved to paint too. So then I dabbled in water-based oil paints. And once again, I just didn't like how long it took to dry. I also couldn't get my mind around it. I enjoyed layering from dark to light, but oil paints is a lot of blending. And I just didn't like that way of painting. So I then moved to acrylics. So with acrylics, I loved creating depth, moving from dark to light, adding lots and lots of layers. I loved how fast it dried. I liked the affordability of the paint. I also liked that it was a bit safer than oil paint. There's super hyper realistic art that I tried to create. I got frustrated. I would get mad at myself for not making these drawings perfect. So the medium, the process, the paint you use, everything, you need to enjoy it. It should get you excited. My next and last action step for this video is the medium that you're currently using. What are the pros and cons of the process that you've experienced right now? Maybe you're a beginner, maybe you're intermediate, or maybe you're more advanced in acrylic paint or oils or watercolor. What are things that you like about it and things you don't like about it? If you want to learn these fundamentals that I was talking about at the beginning of this video, you want to learn acrylic paint properties. You want to learn how to use acrylic paint in a way that creates this vibrant, dynamic, colorful pet portraits, wildlife portraits. I have what's called the Online Animal Art Masterclass. Back when I was battling addiction, what I did was I created art, animal art, every morning and night as often as I could, while listening and feeding my mind with good things, sermons, painting tutorials, just trying to feed my mind while applying myself as an animal artist. And so what I do is just give all my techniques, give everything I've come to learn about color, about painting fur, about drawing, about acrylic paint in my masterclass. So if you want to start there so you can then tell your story, check out the link down in the description to my online Animal Art Masterclass. Now, if you're wondering about that real-time step-by-step tutorial that I promised you in the last video in this series, it's cooking. I'm working on it. I'm just editing it right now, but this is just something I wanted to get out before then, and it's gonna feed into that video. So that's coming up next week. And if you want to vote on content each month, I post in the public YouTube community on Facebook. I have it linked down below, and you can vote on the next upcoming video. But in the meantime, have a wonderful day. Bye.